Welcome back to the Bear Down Abroad podcast for me, Ant. God, isn't it great to have Bears football back? It's brilliant sitting there on a Saturday night watching the Bears play the Browns. 34 unanswered points. And now we've made two signings today. What more can we want? There was loads of things to be seen. There wasn't a starter in sight, but there was still loads to talk about. And myself and Tony are going to get into it. And later on in the show, we're going to be joined by our good friend and one of the most famous people involved in the Bears beat going back years. Peggy Kusinski will join us. So let's get stuck into it. Can't wait to talk about the Bears. Let's go, Tony. Hit it.
Welcome back to the Bear Down Abroad podcast. We are back. We've been away for a wee week or so there for various reasons. But to be fair, there wasn't much going on. So you haven't missed that much. We're back. We've got all the latest news that you've probably seen already. We're going to chat about that. We're going to break it down. And as Ant mentioned as well, we're going to have Peggy Kusinski coming on the show shortly. And Peggy's going to give us her expert insider knowledge on everything that's going on with the Bears at the moment. But that'll be later when Peggy gets here. Ant-Man, how's things? And just what I would just say as well is I always find it funny how people start these shows and they go, how are you getting on? Like they haven't spoken before. Do you know what I mean? But we've literally just came on just before 9 o'clock and hit go. So this is me genuinely asking, Ant, how are you getting on, man? What you been up to?
Everyone thinks that we do preparations for these shows. So if anyone gets our bits and thinks it's knowledgeable, I promise you, it's just inside me and Tony's head. I'm doing good. It was really warm here in Gothenburg today. So I got a little bit of a tan. Well, Irish tan. So like basically red hair and white up here. The usual kind of stuff. But no, how are you doing, my man? You must be a happy bunny. Your football team's in Scotland's doing well. Bears won a game. I mean, not a bad start to your season.
It was a good weekend. It was definitely a good weekend. Really, really happy that we've got Bears football back. Even if it is only pre-season, which is exciting to see some of the new guys on the field. It was a good chance to see some, assistant coaches getting a chance at calling some plays. The experimenting a wee bit. All these things. I love the pre-season for that kind of stuff. It's exciting to try things out, and it's exciting to see the battles reach the field and really sort of kick into gear. So absolutely, that's been fantastic. Otherwise, here it's been pissing a rain for the last 24 hours. I went out for a walk after dinner, and I actually recorded a video on my phone that I was going to upload onto the Twitter page just to say, "Oh, guys, blah blah blah, we're going to be on later." But the rain actually got into the phone and damaged it now, so it wouldn't have been much to watch anyway. But yeah, it's definitely been not the weather that you're getting, I would say.
Good. Well, I was going to say good, but that's a bit harsh. But no, I think do I see a special guest in the queue there?
We might have a Peggy. Let me just add her to the stage. Hold on a wee second. Peggy, how are you?
Hi, guys. I'm so sorry I'm not on camera, but I'm being a very safe driver.
Oh, listen, I can't fault you for that. You're absolutely fine. I was actually thinking about this earlier on when you said that you might be driving. I thought, are we going to get to hear any road rage from Peggy Kusinski on the show today?
There's hopefully you guys don't have any dump buttons like they do at our radio station in Chicago, because I do get dumped a lot for cursing and saying the wrong things. So I just may apologize in advance.
You're on the right show for that. I promise you that.
I love it.
For the wrong show and saying the wrong things, we usually sit here and have a beer as well. So trust me, I'm delighted you're not having a beer while driving. But yes, it's great. It's great to have you on, Peggy. It really, really is. And you're one of my favorite guests, just purely because of who you are, what you represent going back. But also you're so generous with your time for us. So honestly, really, really do appreciate it. How is everything in the Chicagoland area?
Well, it's interesting because when it comes to the Bears, I will say this. I hate the preseason. I hate the preseason like any good veteran should hate the preseason. I don't like to play. Montez Sweat doesn't like to play. I'd rather they call me when the real games start. Now, with that being said, I was actually a little bit more invested just because depth is so important right now for the Bears. And I think, we know who the starters are for the most part. Question marks at left tackle, question marks on the defensive line. But these were the same question marks they had last year. So I think looking at their depth, they actually might be a little bit stronger and a little bit deeper than we are used to seeing.
Yeah, I think you're definitely spot on. I think we were pleasantly surprised with a couple of positions. The running back position for me was a big one this past weekend. We've seen some of the guys really step up there in terms of making a stake or a claim for the third running back spot or the fourth running back spot. I think we've seen some really good defensive line competition there as well. In terms of the game itself, Peggy, was there any sort of area of the field that really stood out to you as a surprise, or one that you were just really impressed with in general?
Yeah, I think that what everyone's talking about today is a little bit more of, the offensive line was not a surprise. I think that it's really hard to key in on the center position. And I do think that looking at their rookie center is, in talking to their offensive line coach last week, Dan Richard, I think that Logan Jones he's not behind, and it's not a setback. But I think people were way too high on him because of his draft status. And I think that as offense can be, you saw maybe a little bit of a let's just call it a pause in production from him. Things were getting too fast for him. He probably had too much thrown at him. And I think that he did an okay job in the game. But I think you'll see such a big difference. I mean, think about it. The 98% of the starters did not play. So what you saw in that game is guys that may never get on the field. You're hoping they may never get on the field. So, you see the development of a Logan Jones. I think that you're seeing a little bit of the speed. Muhammad really playing at nickelback early in the game. Boy, he flashed some great speed and really was able to jump on one of the passing routes, which was good to see. Just instincts and speed. And I think that outside of that, I heard a stat that the number 3 running back for the Bears has only had 8 carries, I think it was, in the last 2 seasons. So that might be wrong, but it's that the idea is the number 3 back doesn't really mean that much. And if you remember, every time Roschon Johnson was in the game, we'd be like, when is he going to touch the ball? He's never touching the ball. He was used as a blocker a lot. He's a special teamer. So as much as you want to get excited about what is his name? Savon Ahmed.
Yeah.
Savon Ahmed, man, I mean, you just want to get excited about him, but he doesn't play special teams. And, outside of an injury to running back, he may not see the field if he was to make the team. So I'm more interested to see maybe what they do this week, what changes and what guys may move around in the rotations that maybe earned a little bit more reps, than they did this past week.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And whenever I look at the rookies, first of all, it's just great to have Bears football back. That was my instinct watching that game. I get excited because I'm watching watching Bears jerseys running around and hitting people. But what interested me was those guys on the bubble who aren't rookies. Because whenever I think of rookies, I always go back to everyone loves Colston Loveland and everyone loved Luther Burden, but they weren't really involved in the first 5 or 6 games last year. People forget that, especially around Colston. Colston didn't really kick on till I think it was game 6 or 7. I think maybe it was the Bengals game. But what is really interesting for me was those depth pieces that we didn't have before, and you mentioned that earlier. And the one that stood out to me the second time I watched it was James Lynch, who I had put down as almost like a camp body. That was very much somebody that was just there till camp and will probably get cut, might get onto the practice squad, but that would be it. But he really, really flashed for me, got himself a really, really good run defense and put his name out there. From what you're hearing around Hallis Hall and what you're hearing around Chicago, someone like that, there's history of the Bears. If you do well in camp, if you do well in games, you get picked into the 53. Is that the kind of mentality that you're hearing and seeing in Chicago, or is it just one of those ones that he just had a really good game in game one?
Well, I think what they're allowing these guys to do is be coached and learn the techniques and the system that this Dennis Allen system is asking for. And, not only John Lynch was everywhere. And I mean, it was really good to see. The linebackers definitely were showing speed. But let's not forget Jamry Croma. I mean, Jamry Croma is another practice squad guy. And you're talking about, will these guys get opportunities, if they flash in the games? Well, what they're doing is they're keeping guys on the practice squad and they're coaching them and they're teaching them and they're waiting for them, to have an NFL body. And Jamry Cromra is a guy that changed his body type. He's been in camp 3 times. And here's a guy that finally is finding the explosiveness that they're looking for and that attack mentality from the defensive line. So, I don't think we're finding any starters, but like we are looking for the rotational pieces. And I think that that's a good sign. The other thing that I think it's a good sign is that, this is a year that Ben Johnson is putting on the coaches. And the coaches got to coach better. How is it that you could be so interested in Max Crosby and be in on the Max Crosby sweepstakes, and then suddenly when you're out of it, you don't even get a defensive pass rusher in the draft. You don't pick one up in free agency that's worth anything. And Ben Johnson all of a sudden comes away and says, "Oh, we got to coach better. We got enough on what we have. We got to coach better." So I think maybe we are not giving as much credit to the coaching staff that Ben Johnson is, and that he sees what they are capable of doing. And let me tell you, if they can turn that group of defensive linemen in that room into pass rushers, oh my goodness. I mean, yeah, those coaches may not be sticking around too long.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you on that point, Peggy. And I think it's quite interesting as well because, I've said this for a while now. I think the Bears made their big investment on the defensive line last off season, and for a variety of reasons, injury or whatever, it just didn't work out as they thought it would. So that was clearly the plan. The plan was there. We'll get these guys in. We've got the coaching pieces in place. We can obviously then look at ways that we can change how they train or how they live their life. I mean, you mentioned Jamry Croma, and he lost, like as you mentioned, lost 20 pounds in the off season. Came back a different type of player than he was before, and had a huge impact on the Cleveland game there at the weekend. And so I think that's a really interesting part there. And I'll bring you back to the pass rusher thing there as well. You obviously mentioned with big interest and Crosby in the previous months, but it never materialized. Obviously far too rich for what the Bears wanted to exchange for him. But instead, Bears fans have logged into Twitter today to find that we have Marcus Davenport coming in to be a rotational piece in the defensive line. What's your sort of view on that move and the sort of ostensible fall from grace, if you like, from going from a guy like Max Crosby rumors and Vita Vea rumors, and all of a sudden we've got Marcus Davenport? And where are you with that move?
Well, listen, anytime Marcus Davenport was brought in for an interview, so he did not work out for them, did not do a physical workout for them. He's been injured a lot, but he's a guy that they're familiar with, from Detroit and from Minnesota, and of course Dennis Allen in New Orleans. They definitely like guys that have a familiarity with the coaches. The coaches giving them like the thumbs up or down on somebody. If they go after, I think Davenport, if anything, I think he's like 31. Maybe a rotational guy. I don't know how much he can actually add. Although I guess last year's injury was kind of a fluke injury. It wasn't something that I think he got. Did he get chopped or something? It's some illegal something happened.
Yeah, it was an illegal tackle. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like he's injury prone at this point, or maybe he is, but
he's not.
I don't look at that so much with Davenport. Now, if they go after a Vita Vea, then you know that they don't think they have it on their roster, that they don't have the talent on the roster. If they actually do go after someone like a Vita Vea, then I think that then you say, okay, they're going to let someone go. And I'll tell you what, there's one guy we did not mention, one of the few projected starters that played on Saturday that I don't even think his name was called in the game at all. And that's Dio Adangbo. Dio is coming off his Achilles tear. He played. You never would have known it. You never would have known it.
Yeah, what was really bad about that is there's one play that's all over. So I've seen it a few times where he's blocked by a tight end, and it wasn't even a starter tight end. And that's really scary and worrying for Dio, but also for us, the money we're spending on it. The money we're spending on the D-line is insane. We've got one of the highest spent money on a D-line. We can't seem to develop a D-line in our draft picks. We can't seem to develop them when we get them in, and we always seem to overpay on a D-line. Compare that to our offensive line, which suddenly has flipped around, and now they're worth every single penny that they're getting paid. On the O-line, because I wanted to go this, have we checked, is Ozzy Trapillo made of metal? Have we checked if Ozzy Trapillo is human? Because for him to suddenly come off the PUP list on Sunday and now be on the field after what everyone was saying will not be till December seems like he is made of something not like me and you.
Yeah, you know what? I think Caleb Williams is going to have to go back to his comic books and find a superhero name for Ozzy Trapillo, because injury was in January, and he comes back 8 months. So we don't know the extent of that Achilles tear, or not Achilles, patella tendon. But what we do know is that it is anywhere from a 6 to a 12 month if you come back.
Yeah.
So he's at that 8 month mark, which is on the plus side. I think there's two ways you look at this. They're trying to put pressure on those other left tackles and tell them to get their shit together, or you're out of a job because Ozzy's back. Or they are simply at this point in his rehabilitation in which he needs to start getting in physical activity. And why not just do it in training camp and see where he's at, see what he's capable of doing over the next 4 weeks, and then you'll make your 53-man roster decision. So I don't know. It's shocking that he's come back like this. We don't know, though, how bad that tear was, but still, it's a good sign, and at least it brings some competition back. I did hear, and I want to like pass this along with, Karan Amagachi is everyone's favorite veteran to be cut, and Dan Rochar talked about really of every offensive lineman and everything from small college, not enough, big experience, um, big game guy, strong, heavy heart, whatever it is. And one of the things he came back with on Quran was very similar to Braxton Jones, and that was almost a loss of confidence. And Braxton Jones last year lost his confidence when he came back from injury and was hesitant. And Dan Rochar believes that he is also dealing with a confidence issue when it comes to Quran because, we smaller league. He was still in the middle. He was thrown in way too soon. And there's a little bit of, you become a little gun shy on what you are actually physically able to do. And so I find that interesting because Karan didn't look great, and neither did Jedrick Wills. And if it's a matter of just working with their mental toughness, then I'll be very curious to see if that is something that they can actually coach up. Jedrick Wills
Yeah.
just looked like a man still in execution. I'm very interested to see what they're going to be able to do with some of these guys.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting sort of timing for the announcement that they're bringing Trapilo back much earlier than we thought. And part of me thinks as well, is it along the lines of they've looked at Amagaji, they've looked at Jedrick Wills, and they think, nah, this isn't gonna work. So are they then maybe Trapilo's injury wasn't quite as bad. Obviously, still a patellar tendon tear, but if the tear wasn't quite as bad, did they have the option of, right, well, we don't have to rush him back if these other guys step up and we've got Amagaji and Wells behind Jones and we feel confident with that. But if obviously it doesn't work out and they don't fill us with confidence between training camp and the first time they've been on the field as well, do we just say, do you know what? Let's just open the window now for Trapilo and start kind of easing that plan in earlier than planned and get him in for the first few weeks of the season. Do you think there's anything in that at all, or do you reckon the plan was always to bring Trapilo in anyway?
I think we've lost.
I think we've lost
Peggy.
She must be going through a tunnel.
She must be going through a tunnel in Chicago. So let's just pop her out for a second. Ask me that question.
I'll ask yourself. So
from my,
do you think that may be something?
Yes, I actually do. I think I listened to Adam Hogue, one of our previous guests, talking about this, and he said Wills was better than Amagaji on Saturday, and yet he didn't think Wills was great either. And I would agree. I think Wills is going back from a big injury. Confidence, Peggy put it really well. Confidence is a big deal, and coming back with a lack of confidence is something that is intriguing to us or to any offensive lineman. I thought what was interesting for me is that Ben mentioned about how much there was too much pressure put onto our quarterback. I think there was a lot of pressure put on, especially Bagent in the first quarter, or the first half. I think that showed it was coming down that side. Simply enough, what you want to hear is you don't want to hear a O-lineman's name, and I think you didn't hear Theo Benedet's name at right tackle a lot, as in making a mistake, and that's what you need to do in those games. That's why I think Theo Benedet is a lock for that swing tackle position. It's interesting. I know he had a couple of reps at left tackle as well, but I think you'll find he might play a quarter or two in the next 2 games at left tackle because they want to see that swing things. Because I think both Wills and Kieran Magaji unfortunately didn't do themselves justice in the whole way forward. Just check, Peggy, are you there? No, the tunnel of Chicago is taken, Peggy. Please tell me you're okay. Blink twice. Onto the game itself. From my perspective, Tony, looking at the game, what I loved about it was the intensity that we had in some of our backups. And people are going to say Beanie Baby is what I'm going to call him about his interceptions. But there were so many other things that I watched that I really liked. As I said about Lynch, I liked Gallimore. I liked our run defense. I think our run defense. But the one that stood out to me, and I want to get your opinion on this, was 2 minutes before the half. There was a defensive set where we gave away a silly penalty and still blocked them, got pressure on Watson. They punted. I think it was 1:24 left, and we went down the field and scored a field goal. That for me was the most impressive part of the whole game. What was the one part of the game that you sit back 2 or 3 days later or 2 days later and think, yeah, that was the one that stands out to you?
I mean, there wasn't for me any one particular point in the game that I thought was phenomenal. I mean, I sort of try and keep the level head in that, we're playing against backups for the most part, with backups, and, not to get too carried away in it. But certainly for me, there was individual performances that kind of stood out. I think obviously you look at, we mentioned Ahmed at the running back spot, obviously doing things that Roschon Johnson has never done or likely will never do in a Bears uniform. Obviously Peggy's point earlier on about the fact that he doesn't play special teams, absolutely fair enough point. Totally get that and agree with that. But not to say that you can't be impressed with it. It was the catches out the backfield for me. I think he had like 50 odd yards out of 3 catches or something like that. And then obviously you had the 49 of that or whatever it was for 1 touchdown. But even still, that in itself was hugely impressive. You mentioned Chroma as well. I thought the defensive line, generally speaking, was pretty decent. I think Neville Gallimore was good. He had a couple of tackles for a loss. Lynch obviously kind of really showing up in that game as well. Probably him and Chroma, 2 best defensive linemen on the day. And then looking at the stats for Chroma as well, 2 sacks and a tackle for loss. One of the sacks was a strip sack, which he obviously recovered out the back of that. We ended up with a touchdown as well. I think we've got Peggy. We'll see if she's come back here. Peggy, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank God. I was getting worried that something happened in your car.
Well, you know what happened? I crossed over the state line and I'm in Packer country, and they knew that I was doing a Bears show.
Oh, you had to put the new code in so that they didn't understand you.
That exactly right. I think we were talking about the offensive line and about Trapillo and whether or not that was their plan all along. I think that they were hopeful that Trapillo was going to come back at some point in training camp, but there's still a long way for him to go. You still need that body, and you guys mentioned Theo Benedict. Let's watch this week in practice and in the practice with the Bengals to see what they do with Theo Benedict. Theo Benedict has been working from the right side of the line the entire training camp. So if he is suddenly now working on the left side of the line, that tells you that either Karan Amagaji or Jedrick Wills is not in the Bears' plans, and that they have got to find out who their backup tackles are going to be that can play on the left side.
Yeah. On Theo Benedict, I've got to say this because if I don't say it, I'll get given out to. Theo Benedict's my son Theo's favorite player, just purely because he's got the same name as Theo. And Theo, who is my little superstar, literally goes up and when he sees the Bears on TV, now says, "Where's Theo Benedict?" And he's disappointed because Theo Benedette has Benedette on his back and not Theo on his back. So if you do happen to see Theo Benedette, please pass on the love that I have my 6-year-old son here in Sweden has for him. So I'm desperate for him to stay at 53, just so I can still have that connection with my son about the Bears. I think from my perspective, the thing that really interested me as well, and I want to go back to ask you this question, because you've seen so many Bears defenses, you've seen so many Bears linebackers, you've seen so many real speed players. What really impressed me, and he was only on for a small bit, was the speed of Deion Bush.
Yeah.
And the absolute what every time I'm listening to people in Chicago and beat writers talking about the camp, they've all said that Bush is violent, that he's a proper violent linebacker. He's making hits everywhere, some a little bit late. There's a little bit of extra to him, and you could see that speed. Is that something that is something we as Bears fans are looking forward to? And where in your history does this kind of stand, that speed element growth that we've seen recently?
Well, I mean, back with Urlacher and Briggs, they were fast. They were both very fast. And I think the Bears this year in the draft and in free agency made a point of finding speed and violence. They want teams to fear them. And they know that just look at the Bears division. You have some of the best wide receivers and running backs in football. And these guys, you could see how old the Bears were looking from linebackers and the back half of the defense, linebackers and defensive backs at the end of last season. And they knew they needed to get faster, and they did. And I think you're going to see it from the linebackers, the defensive backs. I can't keep up with the defensive backs and who's left in the rotation because so many guys are injured. Xavier Woods got injured and they had a Sunday practice, and Xavier Woods came out of the game Saturday with an injury. And it's like, what is going on here? You know that Dennis Allen likes to play nickel and dime, and I just don't know. Typically, you want two good linebackers for his defense, but I don't know if he's going to be able to play nickel and dime because they don't have enough, not only healthy bodies, but really bodies that are worthy of starting like that. So unless everyone starts getting...
No. The signal
is able to do, and whether he does additional.
Peggy, yeah, I agree. I totally do. Tony, I think I jumped across you. I apologize. Were you going to say something?
No, you're fine. You're fine, Peggy. We know you're driving, and we know the signals are not great. So listen, we won't keep you much longer. I thought I would just end here just to get your sort of take on the stadium sort of subplot that's ongoing at the moment. Obviously, we had the Bears came out last week, the press conference, which in my opinion didn't really tell us anything that we didn't know already, and it just seems like this saga is dragging on and on and on. What was your sort of take on the whole thing? Sounds to me that the Bears are absolutely moving to Indiana. It's just a case of when, but then again, they could be playing a political game at the moment to try and get people back on side. So what's your take on this, given the most recent update?
Well, now if you can, so I have a much better signal now. So you guys remember the press conference after Eberflus was fired? And we called it the press conference when Ryan Poles looked like Uncle Kevin Warren slapped him on the hand and put him in a timeout. And I feel like I sat there in that press conference last week and I didn't get the same sense of bravado from Kevin Warren that we're used to getting. You know, you want the guy that is in charge and is laying down the law and letting them know, listen, That was a press conference that was meant to intimidate the legislators in the state of Illinois. And I don't think anybody came away intimidated. Now, what we can tell you, and what I just found out over the last couple of days, one of our political reporting sites here in the Chicago area reported that Commissioner Goodell was in Chicago meeting with our governor, our state governor, and at the same time that that press conference was going on. So if Kevin Warren had a little bit of a defeated look on his face, which he did, he seemed defeated. It's probably because the big boss came in town and said, I'm going to get this shit done because you can't do it yourself. This is ridiculous. I'm going to do it. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but Roger Goodell's wife, Jane, she grew up in Chicago, Lake Forest, big Bears fan. And her father was the chief of staff for President Bush back in the day. Very, very politically connected. And I feel like finding out that Roger Goodell spent all day in Patrick Ryan's offices means that they were hammering out a plan. He didn't come in for a look-see, oh, let's bring me up to date on where you guys stand with everything. No. You're there for 5 hours. You're hammering out a plan. So the big hammer came into town, and Kevin Warren got pushed aside, and it sure seems like something is going to get done very soon when Goodell comes in and kind of takes over like he did. Stand by, because there is definitely something else going on here.
I think if that happens, then it's really, really red hot seat for Kevin Warren. If Daddy has to come in, has to fly in to solve your problem, when you were brought in with this one job as your job, that's your job. Kevin Warren was brought in for the stadium. No matter what anybody else thinks, you might see him in the draft room, you might see him doing press conferences, but this has been, I can say this from Sweden. I know it's embarrassing. It's just pure embarrassing for where this team is going and how it's been handled, how it's been run, I think we're on press conference number 7 and still nothing actually happening. And Goodell coming in while he was doing his own press conference. Wow. It's borderline. It's mortifying. And I'll leave you with this one so you can go and enjoy your afternoon or evening. Where do you honestly think Chicago Bears will be playing in 10 years' time?
Arlington Heights. I think it makes the most sense. It is property that is SoFi-like. They would be able to put in a complete entertainment complex there. People enjoy going to Arlington Heights. It's a cute suburb that has a vibrant downtown. There are already public transportation there. Listen, no matter where you go, people are going to complain and say, I can't get there from here. I can't get there from where I'm at. I can't. But I can tell you this. If they wanted to be in Hammond, Indiana, it would have already been done. And I don't care what you put in Hammond, Indiana. No one is packing up the kids in the minivan to go spend a day in Hammond, Indiana, no matter what amusement park they put there with a Bears stadium. I'm sorry. It's not happening. And if the NFL wants Chicago, then they're going to get Chicago. They don't want this to turn into a New York, New Jersey, an LA, San Diego. They want Chicago. And what they want is what they're going to get. But let's remember, he does work for the owners. So I'm not sure, is it the other owners that are telling George McCaskey, you got to get this done. You can bring in the big political gorilla to get this done, and they didn't have one. That's not good. So I think it's going to be Arlington Heights. I think it makes the most sense. And I think it's a shame the amount of money that has been spent just playing this little political game of football when they could have spent all this money on actually paying the downstate legislators what they want. Put all that money towards community centers in the city of Chicago. We're so sorry we're leaving the lakefront, but the money that we spent on all of these studies in Hammond, we're going to give you a new community center here on the east side of Chicago, and we're going to put together housing over here. That money could have been spent in a way that made the legislators happy. It's a mess, and I think Arlington Heights makes the most sense.
That is the best comment I have heard about this stadium in all the conversations that I've heard. That right there is exactly what Chicago Bears should have been doing. That right there is what Chicago Bears should still be doing, and it would get them so much good PR. It would stop all this crap Indiana Bears. It would create a long-term project. Everyone will be looking forward to it. It'll be positive, and we've got a positive team, and that is the best comment I have heard on the stadium.
The Bears can't not be in Illinois. They have to be there. Like, it just isn't a thing. Like, we obviously traveled from Europe to come to Soldier Field to watch Bears play football. We came, to be fair, I mean, if the Bears moved to the West Coast, we'd probably still come out to watch them. But the point is, the Bears belong there. The market, the size of the city, all that kind of stuff, it makes zero commercial sense, really, to move them to Indiana. And that is no slight on the fine people of Indiana. But you know, and there was I don't know if you know a guy on Twitter, Cream Sleeve.
Oh yeah.
He posted something the other day sitting at the game, and he sort of panned away from the game and looked at the Hammond sort of skyline in the distance, and it's night and day compared to the skyline that you're getting in the city of Chicago. But yeah, like it just couldn't be any other way. So I hope that is the way that it goes. I hope the big guns come in. But you're right. I think it raises serious questions about what is Kevin Warren doing? What has he been doing the whole time he's here? Because we're a few years down the line now and nothing's moved. And if it's taken external forces to come in to get things done, then, you know, what can you say about that? But there you go.
They need the Bears to be a global organization that is appealing worldwide. And Kevin has, by all means, helped them become that. But now to take it, you know, it's kind of like the Lovie Smith. Can you take them now across the finish line? And it doesn't look like he's been able to do that. So it's just we need football to start so that we can get away from this whole stadium crap.
Peggy, this is something that I normally don't have to tell people, but if people don't follow you, first of all, they're idiots, or don't listen to you, they're also idiots. Can you find out who are those idiots that are listening to the show who aren't following you? Where can they hear from you, or where can they get hold of you, or where can they hear your takes, all that kind of stuff?
So I'm on the ESPN Chicago app. And so on the ESPN Chicago app, I host Peggy and Dion on Saturdays, along with the ABC television reporter in Chicago, Dion Miller. So we host a show. You can catch all of our past shows on there as well. And I'm the post-game host for the Chicago Bears radio network, also on ESPN Chicago and the ESPN Chicago app. And I have a podcast with my son, Jason, on also on the ESPN Chicago app called The Sportscaster and Her Son. You can also find me on Twitter and on Instagram at ESPN Peggy or at Peggy Kusinski with a K. So thanks, Ant. Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you, Peggy. Thank you very much for jumping on. And I'm sorry to hear you're having to drive through Packer country right now, but hopefully you'll be back in Chicago soon, feeling better, feeling back with your people again. But listen, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Enjoy your week and enjoy the game when it comes as well.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Take care, Peggy.
Bye. So there we go. Peggy Kusinski. Excellent guest. Love having her on. Always full of insight. And listen, that was, I don't know if people were aware of all that stuff there with the Roger Goodell stuff, but that's huge.
She is, I'm not joking, she is easily, like we've had some amazing guests on. We really always do, but she's come on different variations of this show, and we was on a previous show, and always gives us little insights like that and little comments like that. She's been a brilliant guest for us. But again, the Roger Goodell thing, I couldn't say what she was there because I didn't want to put her under pressure. But that's a fireable offence. If that's what had to happen, that is Kevin Warren must be close to being gone then. If they had to bring in Goodell and Goodell gets this job done. So let's say the Bears go to Arlington Heights in the next month. Let's say it's announced they're going to Arlington Heights. My God, Kevin Warren, how can he stay? Because he's pinned his mast to this one and it would just become horrendous. Let's get back to football because, my God, the stadium absolutely wrecks my titties. So let's get back to talking football. The week ahead, actually, do you know who we haven't talked about? And everyone's talking about him online. I see him everywhere. So we had Jadair Walker last year, and we now seem to have a new wide receiver who has just come out of nowhere that I'd never heard of before. What's your take on him?
Who we referring to? Because
I knew you were going to say that. I've actually forgotten his name. 27.
So Caden Davis.
Davis, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, obviously, he had a good game. I would say a decent game. 4 catches for 88 yards, which is pretty decent indeed. I think I remember him having a really, really bad drop in the game, just to balance this thing out. I remember having a really bad drop at one point as well and thinking, no, you need to be making that sort of catch. But then again, across the whole piece, he was pretty decent. I think Maurice Alexander was the other guy I thought of as well. He always had the 25-yard touchdown, had maybe 40, 50 yards total, something like that. So, but I think Davis absolutely sort of stood out in terms of the wide receivers that are on the bubble, and I think it really bodes well for the wide receiver department generally speaking. I think beyond the main guys, you're thinking like what have we got there? But it's funny though because I feel like we always find. You mentioned Walker there. We always find a wide receiver who seems to just show up in the preseason. And I asked this question before, like a couple of weeks ago, is like, who's going to be the new darling of the preseason for the Chicago Bears? And I think, there's a few guys that in the game on Saturday certainly threw their name in the hat. And it's whether or not they continue to do that over the next couple of preseason games. What was your sort of take on Davis?
On that, the drop stood out to me, unfortunately, but everything else he did really, really well. And supposedly in camp, he hasn't dropped anything. But what I will say is, Jadair Walker, hilariously, if there's a Packers fans listening, Jadair Walker, who has 2 touchdowns, their first round wide receiver pick has 1 touchdown from last year. I still find that hilarious. But Jadair Walker made some big plays for the Chicago Bears. One famous one against the Packers, got a touchdown against Detroit, made a couple of catches against, I think it was the 49ers. So if we get Davis doing something like that again, which is what you want from your wide receiver 6, he's got to play special teams. And I love the block on Ahmed's touchdown. He worked his ass off to get in for the block. So he's doing everything right. And I think when you come to Chicago with Brian Poles, with Ben Johnson, you've got a chance. You got an opportunity that it's not just one of these, look, he's a number, he's going to be fine. Because they showed it last year with Jadair Walker. They also showed it with Nahshon Wright, that if you are performing and you do what they ask you to do and you hit all their targets, you are going to get picked. Tyson Bagent, Theo Benedette, the list goes on and on. There's examples of that in the last couple of seasons where Bears have done that. Am I expecting him to become wide receiver 3? Of course not. But what I am expecting is that we've got these depth pieces and these depth movements that allows Ben Johnson to go, okay, we've got an injury to this player. We know injuries are going to happen. We've got an injury to this player. We've got an injury to that player. It's okay. We're going to put this guy in for a series or 2 series, and we're going to call him because no one's going to expect the call. The reason Jadair Walker's touchdown against Green Bay was so good is because none of the Green Bay players even followed him, because they didn't think the ball was going to him on that moment and that important part of the play. And that's the exact moment you want your wide receiver 6 to do his job. Jadair Walker did it this year. Let's see. Hopefully, Gahan Davis can do the same, not just in the next 2 games, but if he gets into the 53, he can do it at one big moment down the stretch. Yeah.
And this is it. It's all about sort of tempering the expectations. I think, these guys absolutely show out and they certain preseason games that they're coming up big, but it's whether or not that translates to the regular season is whether or not actually are they better than the other players we've got. But listen, it'd be great to see these guys make it. I love a story like that. Another one there from Saturday was the man with a great name in Beanie Bishop, who obviously had your 2 interceptions there.
Beanie Baby.
Yeah. Listen, great name and great contribution to the game. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I don't think he played last year at all, but he was rookie with the Steelers the year before. Looked okay then, but it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. Lands on the Bears, and in the first game, obviously, he comes out and does really well in terms of that as well. What's your sort of thoughts on the defensive back situation? Because obviously, Kyler Gordon is still missing. Even more remarkable, you talk about Ozzy Trapilo tearing the old patellar tendon, and he's back. But we've still got Kyler Gordon out at the minute. So listen, it's apples and oranges, I suppose, a wee bit. But the defensive back situation for me, bit of a concern. Wee bit of cornerback in terms of the nickel. You're looking at Malik Muhammad maybe being a guy who plays there. Beanie Bishop probably more of an outside guy who playing depth. What's your thoughts on that position? And also, I'll throw in the safety situation as well, because obviously we're light there with injuries, and Xavier Woods has just got an injury as well. So where are you with the whole defensive back scenario just now?
I'll start with this. I like Malik Muhammad. I like him coming out of camp. I like some of the plays he plays. If he's our starter nickel in week 1, we're in trouble because he's a rookie, and it's a very, very tough position. And the Panthers have a really good receiver, and I read it today somewhere that he's gone in and playing. They're going to put him in the slot. And if that's the matchup, you're going to have the exact same thing when the Packers in the playoffs targeted Kyler Gordon because he wasn't fit and threw everything onto Gordon. I guarantee you the Panthers do the exact same thing on Malik Muhammad, and we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. So I think you'll find Cam Lewis will go in there, and then Cam Lewis at least has the experience and understanding of it. He's been injured as well, but hopefully that's not too long. I think you'll find Cam Lewis will be our starting nickel, because I've got no faith in Kyler Gordon at all. When it comes to our cornerbacks, there's a little bit of worry because I heard on the Hogan Johns podcast that one of the Adams was saying that they haven't seen Tariq Stevenson for a week, for like 4 or 5 days. Haven't seen him in camp. He wasn't obviously playing on Saturday. So that's a little bit of a worry. Because after that, we're down to the depths again. Jalen Johnson obviously has a history of injuries, but Jalen Johnson's your starting cornerback. Very, very solid. He's got a lot of point to prove as well. But after Tariq Stevenson, and if I'm not saying Malik Muhammad, then we're down to the real depths again. And wouldn't surprise me if the Bears go out and do a move just after the cut deadline, maybe, to get a cornerback in. Regarding safety, Dylan Tiedemann falls into the rookies conversation. The only difference is, as a first-round pick, and you could see the speed on Saturday, by the way, but as a first-round pick, he needs to have someone experienced beside him. It can't be Josh Blackwell. It can't be Hicks. It can't be any of those guys, or Skylar Thomas, the other rookie. You can't start 2 rookies at safety. So we really, really hope that Xavier Woods' injury is just a concern, a little twinge, nothing big. Might sit out the last 2 preseason games, and is ready to go week 1, because we really, really need him. We need him to be on the field, because you need him beside. If you went into this with Cam Lewis as your nickelback, with Jalen Johnson and Tariq Stevenson as your cornerbacks, and Xavier Woods and Dylan Tiedemann as your safeties, that's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. It's one thing it does have is a lot of speed. So I think that's something I'll be okay with. However, if Stevenson's not right, or if Xavier Woods is not right, then we are in real danger in our backfield. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I think they absolutely signed another corner. Well, they've just signed the corner. You put up there. Bears officially signed DeAndre Prince.
Never heard of him.
But I think they'll sign another corner. I think they'll probably look at another safety at this point, especially if the injuries start piling up, that could be an issue. So it'll be interesting to see who that is. You're right. I think once you start getting the cut downs, that may become more apparent. But it's going to be a free agent. Just very quickly.
Just a bit of breaking news for you. So okay. Adam Hogues just tweeted, we've signed Marcus Davenport and DeAndre Prince, and we've waived Coleman Bennett, the running back, and waived injury detail to Nikolai Kalinic, the tight end. So Davenport and Prince in, and we've waived Coleman Bennett and Nikolai Kalinic, the tight end, in return.
So there you go. Waving a running back, feeling good about the guys that you've got there at the minute. We'll see what happens. Big one. Let me before I go any further, because I haven't mentioned it yet on the show, guys, and we're usually done it before now. So apologies for that. But please visit tallybrand.com. Please, the Ant's got one of the cracking trucker hats. It's lovely. I also got a trucker hat in the post the other day from Rob that we'd ordered, and my son stole it as soon as it came in. So I don't have that anymore. But I do have this cracking one. And I love that. This is my favorite one, I'll be honest with you. It pops, man. I love the colors. Like, it's really, really nice. Please buy one, because they're lovely. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I look at some of the Bear stuff and I think, it's all right. But then when I look at the Tallybrand stuff, I'm like, no, this stuff is nice, man. Like, and Rob, the guy who runs it, said himself, like, I think he thought something, along those lines, and thought, you know what, I'm just going to actually make stuff that I like and wear it, and that's what he's done. So listen, guys, please go to tallybrand.com, check out the stuff on there. They've got caps, they've got hoodies, they've got all sorts of stuff, loads of really cool t-shirts as well. So please check that out. If you do go on there, use the discount code ABROAD, and that will get you free shipping. It'll also get you free stickers as well. I don't have any at my desk to show you because my son stole them all. But yeah, they're really cool stickers. So discount code ABROAD for free stickers and free shipping.
If you want to support the show, we aren't these people who do, and everyone, power to whatever you want to do. We don't ask for money. We don't do subscriptions. We don't do any of that stuff. What we do, though, is we look for your support where we can. And please go on, and when you're buying Tallybrand Co., because you're going to be buying Tallybrand Co., when you go onto that website and you see the products, I promise you you're going to be buying it. Please put in Broad. One, it's going to save you some money, and two, it's going to support the show and support the channel. And we really want to support Rob, really good guy. Also, he gave us massive flags, the FGB one. I have it when I do my 2 minutes, 3 minutes reviews. It's a massive one I have behind me, so it's in my house. I'm at my girlfriend's house at the moment, but it's in my house, so I love it. She wouldn't let me put it up, because if I put it up, it'd wreck her house. Don't ask.
That's fair enough. I would have clean up, but I'm actually in the process of moving house, so I'm packing stuff everywhere at the minute. The curtains are off the wall. There's boxes in the background, but once I've moved, I will get a good setup. Aldo, how you doing, mate? Good to see you on. Absolutely. Tally today, tally tomorrow, tally forever. Loving it, mate.
That should be Rob's tagline. Aldo, you've got to give him Rob. If Rob's still in the chat, because he was in earlier on, if you're still in the chat, that's a great tagline. Brilliant. Love it.
There you go. You come not just for the Bears information, but for marketing advice as well. Like, don't worry, us and Aldo are here all day. Don't worry about it. Anyway, what were we talking about there before I went off?
The last takeaways. Davenport. We haven't actually spoken about Davenport. So Davenport for me is one of those ones where exactly that. Grant. If we get to Davenport 2021, I doubt we will. If we get to 2021 Davenport under DA, then yeah, that could be something sensational. I think we'll get the Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings one, which is okay. If he's fit, brilliant. That would be amazing. It's a cheap move, I think, and I think they're trying to save some money that they will then go and spend on a cornerback or safety. That's my instinct. I think the Vita Vea one was never an option. I'd be stunned if we got. I don't want us to do that deal, but I'd be stunned if we did that deal. Well, Davenport is fine if he gives us 4 sacks, 3-4 sacks, better than what we probably get from our current defensive edge 3 or 4. So that's good. Question mark on Shamar Turner if we're bringing him in. If I'm honest, But yeah, look, it's not going to blow your mind, but it's going to be fine. What's your take on Davenport?
So Davenport is a guy that's come in as a rotational depth piece, in my opinion. I've seen a few people reacting on X after it was kind of leaked that he was signing, and it was, oh, who does that? Who are we cutting? Like, who does that mean that Dio's done? Or no, it doesn't. It doesn't mean anything like that at all. I think what it means is the Bears are taking a relatively low risk flyer on a guy who was very successful with Dennis Allen, and his time at the Saints was probably his most successful time. I think he had like 21 sacks over three seasons or something like that. One season where he had 9 in 1 year. So, arguably you could say, he's coming into a system that he knows with a guy that he trusts. It could work out. I don't know what the contract details are. I would imagine it's a 1 year thing. I don't know if there'll be a lot of money involved in it. We'll find out soon, hopefully. I don't think it's going to be a game-changing move or anything like that. I think I tweeted earlier on. I remember when the Saints drafted Marcus Davenport, I thought it was a weird pick at the time. I thought it was too high for him. But they took their chances on a guy who I think is a blueprint for that position in terms of the size and all that kind of stuff. But it just didn't work out for him for the main reason probably being injuries. So yeah, listen, he comes in. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, they haven't really lost anything. So I know when I mentioned it with Peggy on earlier on, we sort of went from the highs of could we trade for a Max Crosby to we brought in Marcus Davenport on a 1 year deal. So I get it. Coming back to the Vita Vea stuff. Listen, I think Vita Vea is a good player. I think for the Bears though, you have to look at it and think, well, is it a move that you want to make? Does it fit in with what we're trying to do at the moment? I think they obviously have interest. I've made an inquiry, if you believe what you hear on the news. But I think he's a guy who could make an impact. But you're going to have to give up something relatively significant. I think for me, I wouldn't give up any more than like a third round. And then on top of that, you're bringing in a guy who's 31. He's going to want a new contract. He's going to want to get paid. You're going to have to dedicate a lot of money to that. They've already dedicated a lot of money to their defensive line.
Exactly.
So I just don't see that as a likely thing, to be honest with you. Would I think that the Bears might make some sort of trade move before the season starts? Absolutely. I don't think it's going to be for Vita Vea. I think and you had a suggestion in terms of a potential trade move as well, more of a defensive end. Did you know?
Josh Sweat. I'll come back to Josh Sweat in a second. Can I make a prediction? These usually don't end well for me, but I'll make a prediction. If you look at our top 6 defensive linemen right now, so it's Montez Sweat, it's Austin Booker, it's Grady Jarrett, it's Gervon Dexter, and now it's Davenport, and I'm probably Neville Gallimore, right? There is a real potential that there will be none of those players playing for the Chicago Bears next year. Maybe Sweat, maybe Booker, right? But there is a real high chance that 4 of the 6 of those players may not be Bears in 12 months' time. That says it all for what this defensive line is right now. It's why I was intrigued by James Lynch and Gallimore as well, ironically, because I thought they give us that bit of depth so we can rotate players in and out. That's what Davenport's going to be. However, the one name that keeps on popping up and it keeps on getting there in my head is Josh Sweat, formerly the Eagles, now Arizona Cardinals, because I think that guy, if he joined the Bears and we gave him a new deal, 27, I think that guy will be a long-term player in Chicago at the defensive end position. And that is the move I would be wanting us to make. We would probably give up a third round going into a second. What do they call that? A third round pick, conditionally second, if he hits targets. Yeah. I'm fine with that. I think we need that player on that defensive line that other teams go, okay, this guy's going to get to our quarterback if we're not ready, especially if our run defense continues that growth and it gets better and better. Because what was really noticeable is Watson in the first quarter had all day long. He had all day long in the first quarter. They couldn't run the ball, but they had all day long. And it was only when the starters came out for the Browns that we started getting pressure up the front. We started getting pressure on the sides. And without Kyler Gordon, without other pieces like that who give that speed off the edges, where I talked about last week, my worry would be we still can't get that pressure on that quarterback. You don't get pressure on that quarterback in this league, in this division. You are praying that the defensive backs do something magical, and then all of our defensive backs get injured. So there's a big warning flag there. It's something to watch going into the next two preseason games. Forget the second, third, and fourth quarters. Worry about the first quarter when usually the starters are playing, and see if we're getting any pressure on a quarterback. And if we are, then okay. If we're not, then we're at alarm bells, in my opinion. That's why if there's not a pressure on that quarterback, that's when you need to pull the trigger on Josh Sweat quickly.
Do you think we'll see a lot of starters on the offense on Saturday?
Nope. I think we're done. I think you will not see Caleb play a snap. You won't see Joe Tooney. You won't see Josh Jackson. I don't think you'll see any of the offensive line. And maybe, for example, if Caleb's not there, then what's the point of having Bradbury? No point. Just no point. If you want to test out Theo Bernadette at right and left tackle, what's the point of having Darnell Wright out there? Because what is the point? We know what we get. I think where you might find it, they had Bush this week. I think you might find next week you might see someone like Roma Dunze for a quarter, or you might see Khalif Raymond for a little bit more than he was there this year or this week. You might even see Cole Kmet for a quarter. That kind of move would make sense to me. But I don't think you need to see Colson Loveland. I don't think you need to see, Luther Burden you won't. Roma Dunze, no point. And there's still people battling for the 53 roster they want to see. So
by all accounts, I think Ben Johnson's running a pretty tough training scenario anyway that doesn't necessarily require them to be on the field. Obviously, get the Bengals coming in on, was it Thursday?
Thursday. We go there. We go to Cincinnati on Tuesday.
We go there.
Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay. Is it whatever? Anyway, this week we're going to have the Bengals joint practices before the game at the weekend, so that'll be ramped up a little bit. You know what it's like yourself. After a while, you get fed up hitting your own teammates and you want to hit somebody else. So it'll be good to have those guys in practice for definite. And I think probably the first team guys will probably benefit more from that. I think absolutely we'll see bits and bobs of a couple of starters, but for me, I don't think there's any real need to put Caleb Williams into any of the games that are coming up before week one. You know, we know what he is, we know what he can do, and as you say, they're definitely getting everything that they need from him, from the training situations that we've got set up as well. So that's going to be really, really good to see. But yeah, so we'll look forward to the game at the weekend anyway. Hopefully, and well, yeah, first and foremost for me, the big thing is always get through it without any injuries. Second priority, Bears win. Obviously, we still want a Bears win, despite the fact that it's preseason. But it's nice. It was nice at the weekend to watch a win. One more thing.
One more thing before you go. Do you know what people aren't talking about? Cairo Santos hit a couple from 50 yards.
Yeah. 51 yard. I think he missed the first one, didn't he? And then 51 yards.
If you watch the first one, that's because it was a terrible snap, which is a problem in itself. It was a terrible snap. But the 51 yarder, if he can get that into his arsenal consistently, that's for me. And I know we don't go into special teams too much, but that for me is a big plus, because suddenly you're giving yourself that 4 or 5 extra yards, especially after taking a bad sack and they went and got it. Just thought that was a nice side note on what it is. There was
the big thing we were talking about it earlier on with Peggy. It's like the coaching impact, and the strength and conditioning impact, and all these other departments in the club that make players better outside of just what they're doing themselves. You know, we talk about players dropping 20 pounds and coming out as a different pass rusher and all this kind of stuff. You know, the kickers and punters are working on that stuff as well and getting stronger. And even, you know, it sounds mad, but if you're able to add a couple of extra yards onto your longest kick, then that's significant. You know, that's the difference between winning and losing a game, which is huge. So if he's able to do that, then great. You know, what's he now in his seventh season with us?
Yep.
Yeah, something like that. You know, so long-term guy. Hopefully he's here for a good long while, but hopefully he continues to play at a high level. But yeah, listen, I just like to see. I'd love to see every area of the Bears progress and get better. And I think we've seen a lot of good stuff at the weekend. We've seen stuff that we probably knew was going to continue to be an issue until it gets fixed, but none of that's a surprise. But I think a lot of it was really encouraging. But yeah, so Anne, anything else you want to talk about before we go?
Not really. I want to throw out one little thing. Myself and Tony and the show, we're starting to do little videos as well that we do on the channel. So please, anyone on here, subscribe to the channel, hit us a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, but also give the show a like or a 5-star review. I always hear people say that. No idea what it means, but it sounds cool. But also really follow the X channel. The Twitter channel, because we have a lot more content on there. We do little 3-minute videos, previews of the game, Tony's takes, my takes, halftime takes. We're going to be doing live shows of while the games are on. We're going to do a lot of content, and we really need your support to do that. We put a lot of time and effort into this. I know I joked at the start of the show, but we actually do. So really would like as much as you possibly can to subscribe, follow, get involved. Because we actually have been doing this for a while, and we actually know what we're talking about. I know I'm going to big us up, but we actually do know what we're talking about, and we really need the support of the Bears community, not just in Europe but around the world. And tell a few friends. My God, how long would that take? It should take you 2 seconds to do so.
Tell one guy, and then you tell one guy, and they tell one guy, and so on and so on. I'm pretty sure that's from Wayne's World. Wayne's World came into my head there.
See how old we are.
I don't know if you remember that scene. I'm just going mad. It's a thing.
How old we are.
It's definitely a thing. Anyway, so we'll get going just now. We'll be back next week.
Who do we have next week?
It's still to be confirmed, but it'll be a good one. So we'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll get back next week. We're talking about good stuff. We're talking about health. Good health. We're talking about the Bears having a win, and hopefully we're talking about me eventually finishing packing up my house before I need to move. But that's taking forever. Anyway, guys, as Ant said, please like, subscribe, follow the channel, follow myself for a good laugh, generally speaking. And as I say, if anybody wants to get involved in the show at all, give us a shout. We're up for anyone coming on, whoever you are. Put your point across and let us know your thoughts on the Bears. But listen, guys, until next week, look after yourself, bear down, and have a good one. Cheers.
Bear down.